Before the first gunshots of the American Civil War, America was already divided, not just by politics, but by fabric as well. By thread, by boots, by watches ticking in different rhythms. From the plantations of the South to the factories of the North, what you wore told the world who you were and who you could never be. In the antebellum South, fashion was more than clothing. It was hierarchy woven in thread. Wealthy plantation owners, fueled by the booming cotton economy, followed European styles. Think of the Southern gentleman, a tailored frock coat, high-collared shirts, and cravats that imitated Parisian and London styles. Figures like Jefferson Davis, President of the Confederacy, often dressed in dark frock coats and waistcoats, accessorized with a pocket watch, a must-have for any man of means. These timepieces were not just accessories, they were power symbols, often passed down through generations. If you had a pocket watch, you weren't laboring in the fields, you were managing those who did. For the enslaved, clothing told a different story, one of forced uniformity and control. Most were given coarse, homespun garments, loose-fitting shirts and pants for men, simple dresses for women. Shoes, if they had them, were stiff and uncomfortable. These clothes were often issued twice a year and reinforced the idea that enslaved people were property, not individuals. Negro cloth was a mass-produced fabric, rough and undyed, woven in the North and shipped south. Even in oppression, industrialization was creeping in. While Southern wealth depended on plantations, Northern prosperity came from factories. The Industrial Revolution transformed cities like Lowell, Massachusetts, into textile powerhouses, and factory workers dressed for their job, out of necessity, not fashion. Young women, often called mill girls, wore simple cotton dresses, aprons and bonnets. Their clothing had to be practical, loose enough to move, but tight enough to avoid getting caught in machinery. Male factory workers wore woolen coats in winter, thick shirts, and work boots. Unlike their southern counterparts, they did not wear suits. Those were for clerks and businessmen. Time was no longer dictated by the sun, but by the factory whistle. Unlike the elite, factory workers rarely owned pocket watches. Why would they, when the machines set their schedule? By the 1850s, the railroad was America's backbone, connecting industrialized cities to frontier towns. Railroad workers, often Irish and Chinese immigrants, wore heavy-duty denim and wool coats. Steel-toed boots were not yet common, but sturdy leather boots were a must. The work was dangerous. One misstep, and the tracks could claim a limb or a life. Meanwhile, out west, the California Gold Rush was rewriting fashion. Miners needed durable clothing. Levi Strauss, a German immigrant, revolutionized their wardrobes with canvas work pants, what would later become blue jeans. These pants, reinforced with copper rivets, were a miner's best friend. built to last as long as the gold beneath their feet. When the Civil War broke out, the Confederacy's fashion was forced to change. Southern soldiers wore butternut or gray uniforms, dyed with natural ingredients like walnut hulls. Unlike the mass-produced Union uniforms, Confederate clothing was inconsistent. Some soldiers even wore captured Union blue. Boots were a luxury. Many Confederate soldiers marched barefoot, their uniforms tattered. The war didn't just drain resources, it stripped the South of its pre-war opulence. The Union had the advantage of industry. Northern soldiers wore standardized blue wool uniforms, produced in factories at a scale never before seen. The war accelerated mass production. For the first time, uniforms were made in standard sizes, setting the stage for ready-to-wear clothing in the post-war years. Pocket watches were still rare among common men, but soldiers sometimes carried them, especially officers. The war heightened the need for precise timekeeping, laying the groundwork for America's railroad time zones decades later. By the time the war ended in 1865, American fashion was forever changed. The divide between the elite and the working class remained, but industrialization meant one thing. Clothing was no longer just for the privileged, it was for the masses. From plantations to factories, from miners to soldiers, fashion in 19th century America was shaped by war, industry, and migration. The way people dressed and the watches they carried told the story of a nation in transformation. A nation that, through war and hardship, was being stitched together, one thread at a time.